YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and Frank Clark just got traded from the Seahawks to the Chiefs. We're going to kind of recap that, go over the details, my thoughts, and then we'll grade each team in this trade. So, and I just did a mock draft yesterday, and I'm going to have to redo some of that because the Seahawks now hold 2 first-round picks. But anyways, speaking of the draft, we'll be live during it. Day 1 is April 25th. We start 30 minutes before the draft to get all ready, and then during the draft, live predictions, reactions, analysis, winners, losers. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. My favorite day of the year. This is where you build championship teams, the NFL draft. So hopefully you can join us for that. Subscriber goal is at 20K. Support's been awesome. Like button, notification button. Please click that notification button. It'll help yourself out a lot. I'm trying to get together a Q&A before the draft goes, but I got a lot to do. Still some more draft videos. For updates and draft talk, Twitter, bottom right, and in the description. But let's take a look at this trade. So Frank Clark just got traded. Didn't think it would actually happen, Well, I guess it was more likely to happen before the draft than during the draft because you don't really see big-time players get traded during the draft unless, the Rosen situation is an exception. We'll see if that happens. But let's break down the details from this trade. Very interesting here. The Chiefs, I figured it'd be the Chiefs or the Colts. That made the most sense there. The Chiefs switching to a 4-3 from a 3-4. They traded away Houston and D Ford because of that switch, and so they get Frank Clark, defensive end from the Seahawks. Had a very solid season last year. He's had good seasons, but he hasn't had too many seasons like last year to me. He's had very productive seasons, so hopefully he can stay more consistent. I think he can going forward because he's not even in his prime yet, looking at his age. So they also get a 3rd-round pick, which is the 84th overall. So basically they swapped 3rd-round picks in favor of the Chiefs. The Chiefs have the 84th overall pick. The Seahawks get the 92nd. So not a big difference. It's kind of weird they came up with that. I guess they'd rather have that than a 7th-round pick maybe, something along, or a 6th-round pick without swapping. Understandable. It's just kind of strange how that comes along. So a bump up for the Chiefs along with Frank Clark. But the Seahawks receive the 29th overall pick, which was held by the Chiefs in the 1st round. So the Seahawks now have 21 and 29. It was funny because I thought the Seahawks would trade back together more picks by trading down in that range. But now they have a pick down there. They can still trade back or up. But they probably want more picks still. 2020 2nd-round pick, so it doesn't help them this year, but definitely a very solid pick next year. But you would imagine it's going to be a late 2nd-round pick. And we talked about the swaps of the 3rd-round pick. You may be asking why is Jalen Ferguson up there. Just somebody that popped in my head. Again, I'll redo the mock eventually here in the next day or so. But Jalen Ferguson's a guy that popped in my head, a guy that can replace Frank Clark in that 29 range. If we're talking the 21 range, maybe Clelin Ferrell. But for that pick they received, possibly a borderline guy like Jalen Ferguson. So let's talk about some grades. Talk about the Chiefs first. I'm kind of back and forth on this. First glance, I thought it was pretty bad because they traded away D Ford, who was at the top of the league in sacks and pressure. They traded him away for a 2nd-round pick, and they, gave away a 1st and a 2nd for Frank Clark. Yeah, it's hard to compare the two players, two totally different players, but it shouldn't be that much in a gap, really, because there really isn't on the field. So first glance, don't really like it there. But then again, they still have their 2 2nd-round picks this year, and they pretty much needed to do this almost. I mean, they didn't have to, but I gave them a B-. I was leaning towards that C range at first, but after thinking about it, that they kept their 2 2nd-rounders, and we talk about Clelin Ferrell. After Clelin Ferrell, there's a pretty big gap in pass rusher, 4-3 defensive ends, ones that fit exactly what they want to run. And so they're not going to be able to get one that can help them compete right now. And they're trying to win. They're trying to win a Super Bowl, and they can win the Super Bowl right now. So they pretty much have no choice to go out and get a guy like this. But they do give up a 1st round and a 2nd round next year, and it puts them in a weird situation when they need multiple corners. And they did lose Mitch Morse, so and they do need other spots on defense too, safety, linebacker. So at first glance, I didn't like it a whole bunch, but I can't completely give them a bad grade or anything. Keep them in that B range because almost like they had to do it, and I do like that they kept their 2 2nd-rounders this year. So no 1st, but 2 2nds. That's big time. On to Seattle, I really like this deal for Seattle. I gave them an A. Couldn't quite give them an A+ because, they have the quarterback, maybe not only the best quarterback in football, maybe the best player in football, and Russell Wilson. You can argue the other side with Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes too. But So that means if you have a quarterback like that, you're trying to win now. And I didn't really understand what they did last offseason, almost like they were going in a rebuild mode, except for quarterback. And they end up making the playoffs because they're well coached. They have, younger guys step up, but mainly because that quarterback, Russell Wilson, who you just paid a lot of money. And it looks like, once again, they're going toward, they didn't make any big signings in free agency. They're just going towards, like, is it a rebuild? But you got your quarterback, Russell Wilson. So that is a little confusing, but the guy wanted to go. They didn't want to give him all that money because he didn't have, a bunch of really good years. And it's a very good draft, especially if you have 2 picks in the first round. And you were low on picks. So the compensation they got is great. I thought he would go for a second and then maybe another pick, like a third or a fourth. I didn't think the first round would be involved, honestly. If it was a first, I thought they would have to give up something in return, and they're short on picks. So I thought the compensation was excellent. Just could not quite give him that A+, which I'm sure everyone's fine with an A. Couldn't quite give it to him because it's kind of a step back today. It's a step backwards today. But the draft's in a couple days. Great draft class. 2 first-round picks. That's big time. They can make some moves. They can even, when you have 2 first-round picks, it looks like you have the ammo to move up and get a better player. But I don't think they do that because they need more picks. They could even trade down a little bit, and they can end up with a whole bunch of picks, really. And they came in this with the very least in the NFL. So in the NFL draft. So really no terrible grade for either team. Chiefs, I was kind of borderline, but it almost feels like they had to do it. But yeah, just wanted to get this video out because that was kind of a big trade. We'll see if a Rosen trade happens. And we know there's going to be a lot of movement in the draft. Makes it exciting, makes it unpredictable from the movements in the first round. So we'll see. Cannot wait for that. Got to update my mock. Some other videos I want to get to later today. I have a video with a bunch of first round sleepers. Who's I have 13 players, I believe, in the NFL draft that could be a shocking first-round pick to some, and which teams would pick them. So I really enjoy making that video. I'm going to have that one come out later today, and working on a few other things before our live stream during the draft. Hopefully you can join us for that and all of our other videos. Follow our Twitter for updates and NFL Draft Talk. Link in the description for that. Goat House NFL. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.